So nowadays, what we're seeing is a trend where more and more companies are attempting and trying to go to continuous testing. And the reason for that is a fewfold. One is Agile. Agile started, you have developers that started building in smaller units, trying to deliver applications and services faster. And what was happening is testing became this massive bottleneck. Now, so what they were trying to do is, how do we get that bottleneck? How do we break it? So what they did was, everything started to shift left. So now the developers started to do more testing. And so what they needed to do is they needed to automate more. They needed to automate the automation. They had to get a lot more testing done. But then once they decided to do that, and they started seeing the value in that, they started to realize that it's not just about testing faster and testing earlier, it's about always testing. And so trying to have good quality and ensuring good quality isn't just about automation. It's about validating the requirements. It's about validating, doing the continuous testing while you're doing your development. It's also about validating and doing the testing and the validation once you go into production. And it's getting all those feedback loops. And once they started developing smaller and started breaking that down and getting more automation, people then realized the value they could get by doing this all the time. And this is all about getting the business value and getting the customer experience that the customers expect. So you look at continuous delivery, and you look at what the biggest bottleneck is of continuous delivery. The biggest bottleneck is the testing piece. And so to really help get continuous delivery right, you really need to have continuous testing. What you started seeing happen is with continuous delivery, more and more people were releasing faster, but they're releasing with risk. Why? Because they couldn't test everything they needed to test. So they started releasing with more and more risk. But what happened is that risk was turning into failures. And so they needed to figure out, how can I test better, test faster, test more? So that's where continuous testing is coming from. And so continuous testing is really the subset and the missing link to properly doing continuous delivery properly. So once you can master continuous testing, you can really master continuous delivery. So you have a lot of companies that are trying to do continuous testing, but if you haven't thought about doing continuous testing, some risks that you're going to run into is, one, you're not going to be able to deliver as fast as you need, as fast as the competitors are doing, as fast as your customers are expecting. And if you are trying to deliver as fast and you're not doing the continuous testing, then you're introducing that risk of not having the quality, the risk of hurting your brand, the risk of upsetting your customers, the risk of not having the adoption, not getting the revenue that you want because of the quality that you're putting into that release. A lot of people are asking, what is continuous testing and how can I have the best way of doing continuous testing? So continuous testing, there's many different pieces to it. One is automation. So let's do the automation, let's get some automation done. Next, let's automate that automation, because you don't just want the automation and have that automation break. Because every time that automation breaks, every time there's a change, you have discontinuity. So you want to automate that automation. You want to make sure that the maintenance of those scripts are good. But it's not just about that. That is one main component. You also need to have your monitoring and your testing in production. And you got to get that feedback loop coming back in to the development team and to the business. It's not just about development, it's about the business value. Everything we're doing is improving the business, not just doing things faster. So getting the feedback loops are vitally important. But outside of that, validate that the requirements are right. Don't just write requirements and then have people develop. Validate that what you're requiring, the requirements are correct. That's important. Get customer validation, get user feedback during the development process. No matter how short that development process is, user validation, requirement validation is very important. Get the automation, automate the automation, and get the feedback loops in production. So enterprises are asking me where to start. How do I get on the path of doing continuous testing? It's not a one-size-fits-all. It really depends on where their problems and where their bottlenecks are. I generally would say, let's get automation. Let's start pulling away from manual testing. Let's stop focusing on automating only the UI. Let's start focusing on API testing. Get that done. Then once you have that done, then you can start automating that automation on top of that. But focus on the API testing. The API testing is what you're going to get more bang for your buck. Then, after you have that, get the APM stuff in production. Get the monitoring, get that feedback loop going. Then once you have that going, then the real challenge is how do you get access to your customers, how do you get access to your users, how do you get that validation, then work on that. You could try to work on it all in parallel, but I'd say work on it in individual pieces, start mastering one piece at a time. So it's not one size fits all. Some people have automation mastered, some people have these other pieces mastered, but I would say start there, break up the UI, go down to the API, get the APM stuff, get that monitoring going, and then get the customer validation. So how do you get continuous testing success? And one of the ways is having a good pipeline. And it's not a build pipeline, it's a release pipeline. And that release pipeline starts with continuous delivery director. That is the pipeline. It manages your requirements. It looks at the requirements, it tracks that to what the developers are doing, what testers are doing, what's in pre-production, what's in production, and it orchestrates all of your testing, no matter what that testing is, whether it's performance, security, functional, UI, API. It can help push out the application, do the testing, the virtualization, the test data management, the parallelization, it's a hard one to say, parallelization, concurrent testing across your performance, your functional, your security, get that all done faster. And that's going to help with your continuous. So CDD, the Continuous Delivery Director, is really the heart of getting continuous testing and continuous delivery. So we just launched a lot of pieces for continuous testing, continuous delivery. We launched things for service virtualization, test data management, VTDM, virtual test data management, private cloud. Really, the point of all of it is a focus on shift left, code SV, writing things as code, helping developers develop faster, actually helping developers test faster. VTDM helps developers, helps testers test faster. Code SV gets you that shift left. The developers can then test more with virtualized services. Private cloud gets developers to use their open source JMeter better. So we're shift left, get the developers to do more, help the testing faster and be more efficient. I keep getting asked this question. BlazeMeter, you acquired them. What are they, what do they do, and what are your goals with BlazeMeter moving forward? BlazeMeter, fundamentally, is a performance testing SaaS solution. It's now expanded since it's been part of CA. It's no longer just performance testing, it now does functional testing. The goal is BlazeMeter with functional API testing, performance testing. We're going to expand that even further to doing more functional testing. It's going to be part of our full continuous testing solution in the cloud. And we're going to make that the centerpiece of our testing execution engine, whether it's going to be functional, API, performance testing. And it has expanded and it's going to continue to expand since it's been part of CA. So some people ask me, we're trying to do continuous testing today. Where is continuous testing going? Continuous testing is going to stop being called continuous testing. It's going to be the way that everyone actually tests. There's going to be new tools, new ways of helping people automate the automation, because automating the automation, getting rid of the maintenance of scripts is going to be a huge key to getting continuous testing right. And what we're going to see is more of that. And the way we're going to be able to do that zero maintenance of scripts is through analytics and machine learning. You're going to see more analytics, understanding what's happening in production, understanding what's happening with your development teams, what's happening with your requirements, all this data and how it's going into the release cycle. All this data is going to really help us figure out how to properly maintain those scripts and what scripts you have to run, what tests need to be run, when they need to be run, how often they need to be run. That's where we're going, and that's what's really going to help that shift left, and that's going to help alleviate some of the shift that developers have to do today. Traditional QA teams are worried when they hear continuous testing. They're saying, well, the developer is going to do the testing, what's going to happen to me? The COE is being modified, it's morphing. It's going from a center of excellence to a center of enablement. Still a COE, so you can still keep your business cards, but you're becoming a center of enablement. And what that means is there are going to have to be new skill sets. It's not just about automating UI anymore. You have to understand the APIs, you have to get down, so there's going to be new skill sets. But what's going to happen is they're going to be part of the Agile teams. They're going to jump in, they're going to help out, they're going to do that testing in the Agile teams. They're going to train testers and developers how to do Agile properly. So they're going to morph, it's not going to go away. We're never going to be at the spot where testers are going away that are not needed. There used to be this no ops, no testing, developers were going to do everything under the sun. That's not going to happen. They don't have enough time in the day to do everything. They don't have the proper skill sets. QA is a special skill set. So yes, they won't be part of a center of excellence anymore, but that skill set's still going to be in high demand. They just might have to morph to go from UI to API to understanding more of the code.